Hello, 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 y'all. Welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in. It is Sunday morning if you are listening to me live. And this is my show, Yapping with the Stars. So come on in, y'all. Get your coffee, get your tea, get your weed, get whatever you need. Make yourself comfortable. And let's get into what this week has in store for us. All right. Now, if you are listening to this on any other platform outside of my Patreon live, so my YouTube, my Spotify, Apple. This show is recorded every Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time live on my Patreon. So if you ever want to catch the live, and this is where I get to actually engage and chat with folks who are listening, then go ahead and join my Patreon. You can join at the free level. So anyone at the free level have access to my lives. Hello, y'all. Come on in. Have access to my lives. And this is a way and a space in which I can engage. So if you are interested, if you're listening to this outside of Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, go ahead and join my Patreon at the free level. And if you want access to these full recordings each week, along with other exclusive content in which I get into all kinds of things, I got a lot of interest here. I'm also creating a few projects, and you can join at higher levels, and they have different access to that as well. Okay. All right, y'all. So it is a new moon today. We got a new moon in Capricorn. Okay. So we are still in Capricorn season, though not for long, right? And this week, Saturn, therefore, is going to be in charge, and she will be in charge for a while as we have this new moon in her sign of the sea goat. So this new moon is not only about just new beginnings, like all new moons are, but it's a marker of the maturation at a time of socio-political and economic collapse. So this is a time in which is marking that we have to again grow up. Now, with Saturn and Pisces slowly emerging from the deep waters, we have to assess the dreams and delusions we bought into and why we keep looking outside of ourselves for our saviors. This is the key thing in this new moon in Capricorn right now, y'all. You are the structure that requires tending to, that needs nurturing and care to sustain itself in the long haul, okay? So do you know what it is your structure and system needs in these times of conflict and unrest? So Saturn is once again trying to mother us by getting us to realize we truly are the heroes in our own stories. So how are we defining heroship, and do we understand the story that we are in? All right, y'all, let's get into it. This is the weekly forecast for January 18th to the 24th. It is the new moon in Capricorn. What I call Saturn, the mother, has arrived. Welcome back to Yapping with the Stars, the show where I talk about what it means and takes for us to become human once again in a world that is trying to convince us this is all there is. And it's not, right? So let's talk with the cosmos and see what else is possible. I am your host and guide, Nicole Rouse, a storyteller who comes from a line of storyteller who weave and tell stories in many different ways. And as an anthropologist, astrologer, and artist, I work with astrology and ethnography to explore the stories of what it means for us to be human. Because right now the present is up for grabs. So who is leading the stories that will bring us into our futures? Now, every Sunday we check into the chaos we call society and we ask two questions. What's the cosmos showing us this week? And what are we being called to move, create, burn, build, and or reflect upon? Now, if you've been with me for a while, you know I talk about Saturn a lot. And no, I'm not Saturn ruled at all. I'm Mars ruled. I'm a Scorpio rising, right? Saturn is actually, for me, in Libra in my 12th house as a part of a big ass stellium I got out there. But I got a lot of respect for Saturn. And there's a way that I feel Saturn has been a big guide in me learning how to engage with astrology in my own way by combining my kind of understandings of the human and this thing called life via anthropology, my own experiences, and also being an artist, right? Trying to do this thing called life is something that we're all trying to figure out. And so that was a big part of my questioning throughout my whole life, because nothing really made sense for me growing up. It's like, what the hell does it mean to live? Like, what is this thing called life? Why are we here? Why am I here? Right? Is this really my family? Was always a reoccurring question. But in that kind of question making, right, it's this kind of quest to figure out what is the purpose of this thing, right? And is this all there is? Is it all just suffering? Is it all just kind of constant doing and going and genuflecting to something else in the hopes that maybe one day you will be calm? right? So this is why many people, all of us, kind of go to different types of systems and structures and ideologies, right? Cosmologies to help us figure out what the hell is this thing called life about. This is why we have religion, right? Religion becomes one mechanism we try to figure this out. But it's not the only one, right? We figure it out intellectually. So we maybe go to education. We may reject religion, or we think we reject religion, but we just replace one God with another, one authority outside of us that's dictating what it means to be us, right? What is the quote unquote right way to live? Well, then you got this whole other systems, though. You have these things called divination systems and different ways that we kind of try to figure out how to commune with other types of life, right? Spirits, entities, whatever, primordials, whatever you want to call it. And this is where for astrology for me comes in. It has come in for off and on most of my life, where I try to figure out not just who the hell I am, but what the hell is this thing called life. And I always came back to Saturn. Again, even being Mars ruled, Saturn really felt to be the one that wasn't necessarily heavy, but was serious about us taking seriously this thing called life. But when you live in a society, y'all, that tells you and already what you're supposed to do, this idea of supposed to, we're going to keep coming back to, okay? They keep telling you what you're supposed to do, right? Then you need the structure, the kind of location that can help us figure out how to navigate this thing called life, to be bound in a particular way of understanding that structure making and systems creating via authority. So then you have to confine this entity, this construct, this planet that actually is very boundless. Yes, it has rings around it, but again, those rings are gaseous. The planet itself is porous. It shifts and shapes, right? Reminding us that that is what this thing called life is. And it's the further planet out from the inner planets. So it has perspective. So when we take a step back and we think about why do we always see Saturn as this kind of figure that is dominant, that is a daddy, that is the kind of patriarch that is always making everything hard, right? But the properties of Saturn don't necessarily at all align with that. The signs that rule Saturn are elementally water and earth, which is also the same elements that rule Venus. And then water being what rules the moon, right? We have to start asking questions about why does Saturn need to be so dominant? When in actuality, Saturn is the planet that is trying to get us to understand what is required for us to be able to do this thing called life in our way that can be replicable, so that when we need to shift things, we understand that structures and systems are not solid in nature, right? But that they must undergo change. Because Capricorn, as the earth feminine version of Saturn, y'all, is the sea goat. It understands that it has to navigate terrain, but it can navigate it. It can go into the land or the water. It's fluid. But it understands sometimes you got to go to work and do some work to do it. But structures and systems, right, will undergo change. So you have a cardinal sign next to a fixed sign, right, of Aquarius. That is the collective, reminding us that it takes individual effort, right, to create collectives that then can enact that change. So these are lessons. These are lessons of nurturing and care. So would that not be the mother? So if we reconceptualize Saturn, especially in this moment, I think it can do a lot of help for us, honestly. I really do. And this is a big reason why I think this Capricorn season has felt so loud, while at the same time also felt so long, while at the same time also felt so quick, right? Has anyone else felt that? Like all these things, like it's dragging out, but really quick. And again, is it already, we're still in this, right? There is a way we're having to kind of face the reality of this moment, that it is all of that and everything at the same time, right? It is going to always feel as if it is chaotic, that it is never ending, that it's like a fire hose that is constantly going. So in this new moon energy, Saturn is reminding us, do we have the structures of us set because this is just the beginning. If this is a new beginning and this is just the beginning, right? Then what are the structures we are creating? What are the structures that we understand need to be gone so that new things can arise? That will allow us, right, to be able to take the reins, because this is just the beginning. Power is here. We have a stellium right now in Capricorn of all the personal planets in Capricorn and now in Aquarius. So Saturn is asking us to take responsibility for the structures and systems that we need to examine and own and destroy whatever we need to do collectively, because power is here and it is doing exactly what it knows how to do: create the chaos and havoc that keeps us always running and chasing, instead of realizing that we actually have the power. But do the people understand how to work the power anymore? So this new moon is bringing up a lot of stuff. So let's get into this. What's going on? We've got Mars and Mercury at 26 degrees. Right next door, 2 degrees later, we have the sun and moon at 28 degrees. The sun and moon together create a new moon. 2 degrees after that, we have Venus at 1 degree in Aquarius. And then 2 degrees after that, we have Pluto at 3 degrees Aquarius. Repetition here. Repetition. We're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to repetition. Then you got to think about then where is the ruler then of this new moon? Again, we're in the new moon in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by, when someone says the ruler or the lord of something, y'all, that means what planet rules that sign? Well, that's Saturn. Hence, we're talking about Saturn here. So when we have Saturn, where is Saturn? Saturn's over in Pisces at 27 degrees. Who is 2 degrees away from Saturn? Neptune. We hear 2 again. 2, repetition. Neptune's at 29 degrees in Pisces. And that moon, that planet, a Saturn that is leading, that is in control, really, of this new moon energy and also of this massive stellium of the personal planet. So Saturn is getting to the bones of things. Capricorn being the structure, being our bones itself, the skeletal system. Aquarius being our circulatory system, how we move, right? Saturn in Pisces is having a conversation, a sextile with Uranus that is retrograde in Taurus at 27 degrees, and then therefore having a sextile or a conversation with Mars and Mercury that are at 26 degrees Capricorn, which then means you got a trine going on between Mars, Mercury, and that planet of Uranus. So what the hell all that mean, y'all? What does all that mean? Repetition is here. We're going to have to repeat things, right? We're going to have to face things, the duality of life. There's a duality here that we are having to reckon with ourselves, with one another, with the structures, with our strategies, with our messaging, Mars, Mercury, with our sense of self and what we actually do individually, how we move that body, moon, sun. And then collectively, because we're getting into Aquarius now, our understanding of justice and relationship and money, and the ways that is undergoing a complete transformation, because everything is going to be hitting Pluto as well. This is just the beginning, y'all. And I say that over and over, not to scare, but to have it sit in your bones. What do your bones tell you when I say this is only the beginning? Right? What do your bones tell you when I say this is only the beginning? But I'm also telling you that Pluto's in Aquarius, power to the people, but the people know their power. Do you understand that this is an actual fight? This is a showdown. It always has been. But what is our responsibility in, right? The maturing and realizing that we have to be the ones to be able to move the ways in which we do this thing called life, so that we move the ways in which we resist this encroaching power structure. Mars in Capricorn right now is exalted. That's what they say. We have to rethink that, though. What does exaltation and detriment mean in these structures if we are questioning the archetypes that have been formulated through the patriarchal lens, the patriarchal gaze, through the idea of a patriarch? Again, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Where is the creation? So if we see it that way, and the ruler of this moon and of these planets is in Pisces, y'all, and is going, and she is emerging. She's 27 degrees. She's only 3 degrees away from coming up from the deep water. So she is coming in. She's coming up, y'all. She's what do they call that? What's the opposite of submerge? What's the opposite of submerge, y'all? I'm having a brain fart. Rising. She's rising to the surface. She's coming to shore. She's coming to shore. Okay. Emerge. Thank you. Emerge. Right. She's emerging, coming to shore slowly. She'll be at shore next month. So the mother is getting cleansed and coming up. We must reveal these things. So what she is asking Mars to do in Capricorn, that is supposedly exalted, Mars got to grow the fuck up. This is about maturing in our strategy, maturing in our messaging, maturing in our understanding that we have to be the ones who are leading the fight. The Mars is no longer sitting in the kind of soldier stance. What does it mean to become the general? And this really matters because as Saturn comes into Aries, y'all, Aries is ruled by Mars. Now, everyone says that, Saturn is in detriment in Aries, and that's going to be a big issue because, there's no, Aries is so kind of immature and things like that. No, Aries is growing the fuck up. Saturn is saying it is time to grow up. So what happens when Aries grows up? Aries energy is not always this idea of the immature. I think we have to stop, again, boxing in these archetypes. They're not meant to be stagnant. They're meant to be things that actually constantly kind of are evolving, revolving, evaluating. Hence the idea of retrogrades in the thing. You know what I'm saying? Aries can grow up, and then now Aries is having to grow up because Saturn, the mother, is reconstituting the body. So right now we're getting to the bones of things. How do your bones feel right now, y'all? And what are your bones telling you you need to do? And what the doing might be is letting go. What the hell does that mean? The letting go might be of the dream and the story that got you to believe you would get a savior outside of yourself. Saturn's in Pisces, emerging from the deep waters, along with Neptune, emerging, bringing to shore the shit we bought into that now don't make no goddamn sense. Think about it, y'all. Folks are talking about how, these new awakenings. Now people are quote unquote awakening again. Again, we're in these loops. Same thing happened during BLM. Right? Same thing happened Minnesota during BLM. Minnesota is like a ground zero of what we kind of see the way of power operating and how the state will or will not push back against it, but also how the citizens will react when that state shows its ass. Okay? The state showing its ass again, y'all. We are in a loop. This shit is not cute. Okay? So if we don't want to be in these goddamn loops that are getting more and more violent because the state gets better at enacting itself, right? Yes, the dream and the ridiculous story positioned by others that reduces us. Exactly, Shay, right? We are having to see the reality of the constructs of society that do not work for us. And the first thing that we are having to truly see, again, Venus is actually leading this as the personal planet in in the lead right now, because Venus is now in Aquarius, in the sign of the collective, of the human, of the humanitarian. But what the hell does it mean to be human? Do we know what it means to be human outside of the concept of the colonial project that has dehumanized most of us in order to commodify the body? And in order to do that, it had to separate our spirit from us. So now the deep waters of Neptune that rules the dead, that rules the collective consciousness, right? That rules spirit is coming up. Can you bring your spirit to your body? Can they meet? This is the rise of the Ori, y'all. We are getting prepared for the rise of the Ori. And it is a signal. There you go, Desiree, excuse me. From 2016, exactly. Right? This is the rise of who owns your head. So we got to get to the structure and bones of things. This is a new beginning. And a new beginning is a fucking reality check, y'all. This is a massive reality check. And again, you don't have to make it good or bad. What happens if it just is and you got to the bones and you let it sit in and you embodied this shit? Gave yourself a minute of pause so that you can reflect and actually figure out what it is you need. what it is the bones of you need so that we can bring truth to the table. Because right now, what are we realizing we need, y'all? Again, we're going back to what we've been saying since Virgo's new moon. We realize we need care. 28 degrees is this new moon once again. We get 28 degrees until we get to Aries. The Aries new moon is when we finally move that degree of all these new moons. This is a mothering, again, a mothering of a lesson over and over again, that the only way we're going to do this shit, y'all, quote unquote, survive, if that's the bare minimum, which it shouldn't be, we're going to have to figure out what it means to care again, because that's what it means to be human. So the humanitarian Venus leading the way in Aquarius right now, Pluto is there, death and transformation. The first degrees of Pluto moving into a sign is the death of that sign. The collective is going through a collective death, and we need it. We need it because we're seeing just how people bought into bullshit, right? That whole wave in the 2010s, we've been talking about for a while, when Neptune was in Pisces hardcore, and folks now were calling themselves priests and priestesses and shamans and all kinds of shit because they took an ayahuasca trip one weekend, right? Or did a shadow journal and thought they met God, and when they really actually just met was they shadow and that they ain't really ever talked to before or integrated. But since that's so new and they want to feel special, right? And everyone can be their own guru, we have this kind of resurgence of these stories that really don't make any sense, but we bought into the nonsense, right? Because everyone was doing it, and if you were actually the individual everyone claimed they were supposed to be, then you would be the shunned one, right? We are seeing just how easy it is to conform and think that's revolutionary, right? We are seeing how easy it is to conform, and people think that is revolutionary. The shit is coming to shore. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. And no, it don't. No, it don't, y'all. It doesn't make any sense at all. You know what I mean? So, getting to the bones of things. Where have you been delusional? Where has the spells of society glamored you? This is a spiritual warfare, y'all, and I really do mean that. We glamour ourselves all the time. Glamour is not necessarily a negative thing. Naivete is a part of glamour. And think about how, if you weren't naive in some parts of your life, would you have gone and done something that actually you did need to do? But that naivete is what opened that door for you. But then reality did hit. So the naivete, it was the opening, it's the glamour, right? Right? But then the reality hit. Do you believe the fucking reality, or do you still buy into your own glamour? Because then that will require you to turn the mirror around and look at what that shadow. But you don't want to look at that shadow. You want to commodify that shadow, because for $9.99 a month, you can subscribe to my membership and learn how to integrate your shadow, even though I have not done it. So therefore, I am farming your energy, right? So that I can continue to believe my own delusions, because I have now glamored other people, right? Right? Baby, listen, I'm not even that, and I say that not to judge. The shit that I did in them 2010s, Lord. And my folks on my Patreon who've been with me for a while, I'll tell stories now and then in the divination school that is part of the soundscape level. But y'all, I did all kinds of crazy shit. I was learning from folks that, quite frankly, I had no business learning from, but I'm glad I learned from, because I understood how easy it is to fall into a pipeline of believing somebody else knows more than you about you, right? That authority given away. How we replicate the ways we are groomed from birth in these institutions to constantly see outside ourselves, especially if you have a wound, right? An actual wound. If you have that anatomy, right? That demonization of those who are part of creation, right? Because we have bought into a trinity that is about destruction. And then we were told that that is not only salvation, but somehow also the location of innovation, when we're doing the same bullshit over and over again. Do you see what I'm saying? The delusional stories, y'all, that are coming to the surface? Get into the bones of things, a new beginning. Can we tell ourselves the truth? Mars and Mercury conjunct right now. And to my third house. My third house is social media, y'all. So when I say I can feel it on my tongue, as a Mars ruled sign, I can feel it on my tongue, right? What truths need to be spoken out loud, right? What truths did your mouth want to speak to you? Look in that mirror today, and I really do mean it. What truths need to come out of that mouth that need to be spoken to you? And then can you receive it without judgment? Can you receive it without judgment, sun and moon, so that it informs? It informs your decision making, because Mars is now growing the fuck up. You are no longer a soldier. You are now the general. Can you lead your life, y'all? Because when Mars goes into Capricorn, this is also war energy. This is war. It is. It's structures and systems. So you have to look at the duality of everything, right? That's also what we have to remember. There's a duality to shit. So when motherfuckers get bored, they go to war. When the state, right? When the state wants to have you not see what it's actually doing, it then instigates what it knows very well, violence. Right? He just shooting everywhere. Let me go to Venezuela. Let me go to Iran. Let me go to Green. There's a way we are seeing the not only chaos, but the ineptitude and the juvenile nature of the Western nation state, y'all. Right? Delulu will have you fucked up when you don't thoroughly investigate. Exactly, Shay. It will have you all fucked up. And this is what we are seeing. You know what we all got fucked up worldwide? That we got fucked up thinking that the U.S. knew exactly what it was doing. They are giving us war. They are trying to force war upon us so that we don't see the ways they have destroyed our economic system, y'all. And I'm not saying this to fearmonger. I am saying we got Pluto in Aquarius at 3 degrees, the early degree. The early degrees of Pluto is when he destroys things, death to a rebirth. You got to go into the underworld before you can emerge back out again into your light. What is the first planet that's going to be hitting them? Venus. Venus rules money. Pluto rules the banks. Think about the stories we are told and how we are always told democracy requires war. And how we bought that shit. And when I say we, I mean the collective we. All right? I mean the collective we. Bought that shit. Oh, yeah, we need a war in order to have peace because it is them over there who are the ones who, don't understand what freedom is. Right? Because democracy for us was based upon this origin story of founding fathers who just wanted to be, free once again from the tyranny of the kings, right? Who were just taxation, tax and with no representation. But you forgot to tell the other part of the story, that in order for you to fund that motherfucking war, you had to then take the same tactics that you were taught from that oppressor and oppress somebody else. So American freedom is built upon the backs, literally, of those that they enslaved. That is not no woke shit. That is the goddamn reality. That is the truth. That is the story, right? That is the story that has been emerging once again, that they're still trying to submerge. They're trying to do all they can, right? Take shit offline. They put in old school manifest destiny pictures back up again. But that should tell you something, y'all. That should tell you something. There's no innovation in these systems. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It's like somebody stealing from you, right, and trying to make it at their own, but then they forget to take your name off of the slide that they're given in the PowerPoint, and then now they want to make it as if you're the problem, even though they're the one that stole the shit to begin with. That's actually a true story I had happen to me when I was working at Brown with some folks who were running the centers that reported to me. It was a goddamn mess, y'all. It was a goddamn mess. Like half the time, the examples are from actual real experiences, right? There's a way that you try to create this story, even though the evidence is right there. There was an evidence that this person had stolen somebody else's work literally and hadn't even taken the name off of. But this person then made a whole story up about how, because they were so overwhelmed and overworked and all, and crying and crying and crying, right? That story took precedence, but it made no sense. Actually, you just trying to shuck and jive because you don't know how to do your fucking job. Now we're getting to the hardest shit right now, y'all. War is being asked and put upon us. Violence is what the state knows. And it only knows peace through violence as well. That's why last week when I said it is not about having peace right now, it's about creating. That is how we resist this shit. How do we get creative? because the state needs money. The state needs resources. This is what they are doing. They are raiding our coffers. They are raiding our coffers while trying to tell us, right, who we should be looking at as the real folks who are robbing us blind. So then what do? The same old fucking tropes. It's the same old tropes. And they're digging. So now it's immigrant Somali populations. Where? In Minnesota. Here we go again, y'all. Here we go again. The same goddamn trope in the same locations that don't like that man to begin with. Right? But it's okay when you do it, not okay when I do it. You know what I mean? So getting to the bones of things, getting to the heart of things. So this new moon today, y'all, this new moon today, I want you to tell yourself the truth by allowing your bones to talk to you. Okay? Allow your bones to talk to you. And ask yourself, whose story are you letting lead? Because I'm going to tell you something right now, y'all. This is where I do get nervous. And when I talk about music, especially, right, and art as a location of world building and freedom making and taking, it also is an indication of just how much the population has moved toward more conservative ventures and more conservative teachings and leanings. So this gives us an indication, right, of just how ready a society is for a so-called progressive or new way of being. What the hell do I mean by that? Jill Scott. How many of y'all have listened to Jill Scott's new song? This is all gonna make sense, y'all. It's all gonna make sense. Just roll with me. If y'all listen to Jill Scott's new song, right? And I don't even know the day. I know the words to it. This woman said the beginning of her song, you know a song gonna be good when a song opens up with like you gotta work your way into you easing the audience into it, right? And then when she was talking about how you've been humping me shallowly, superficially. Don't close your eyes. You can look and feel at the same time, right? There's a way that the whole song to me, one is a poetry, like you definitely she's a poet. But two, it's an interesting maturation, a mature way of talking about getting it on, right? What you want, what you were acquiring in two bodies coming together and doing the nasty, right? That it's a call to, it makes sense at her age. She's in her 50s, right? All of this stuff. Response I'm seeing online has been really interesting, right? Especially from folks under the age of 30 who don't necessarily know her music overall or career, but also have very strong opinions about the song. And I've heard all these things, people calling it over nasty and over freaky. And, why is everything got to be overly sexual and explicit? And, she's too old for this. And I'm like, whoa, okay. This is an indication of just how good the project has been in ensuring that its conservatism is deeply embedded. Because again, Shay, it ain't nasty at all. Thank you, Shay. It's not nasty. That's probably one of her least freakiest songs she has made at all. Because baby, Jilly from Philly back in the day with that mic and that stage and them hands. Right, I think she kind of tamed it down a bit. Desi, thank you. Not in the age of Kevin Gates, Little Dirk, and Future, right? But it's interesting when it comes from a woman's body, right? It's a really interesting shift you're seeing in the kind of cultural landscape of this idea of folks being quote unquote too sexual. The younger generation calling, especially in the queer community, there was a whole thing last Pride of young queers talking about how the older queers, right, were nasty and out here and kink and fetish and all this shit. And there was a lot of shaming and bringing up children. The children are here. The same tropes, the same dog whistles, right, to indicate deviance so that you conform to something. Music and culture tell you a lot. Not just the music itself, y'all, but people's responses to it. And exactly, Grace, a big Black woman's body. Because I'm not gonna lie, Jill look good as shit. Jill look good as hell in that Colors video, baby. I watched that shit on repeat. But also, it's poetry, right? It's a grown ass way of saying right? A grown ass way of saying that, baby, if you gonna be with me, you gonna have to look me in my eyes. And I say the same thing. If I'm with another woman, baby, we doing this thing for a reason, right? If you're gonna be, you gotta look me in my eyes. You're gonna be between my thighs. Shit. What is the point of us doing this thing if it's just gonna be a one and done real quick, or if we're so uncomfortable, right, that we're afraid to have a light on or to actually feel and caress and get into each other? That's grown. That's an understanding of what the body needs, right? But exactly, Shay, they're doing things in deviance because it's done in secret. Do we understand? Do we understand the violence that happens when everything that our body just naturally wants to explore, or at least question and be curious about, is seen as somehow a wrong, a sin, a negative? Do we see how that can do such violence to ourselves and one another, and then the societies that we are in? Because we never ask questions. We never allow our bodies. We never get to our own bones of things. We never get to the structures of shit. This is why I'm doing my queer and chaos conversations. And one of them was about queering pleasure, play, and taboo things. We have to queer these conversations. We have to queer what we would consider deviant. If we're thinking that new song from Jill Scott is freaky, and then that is somehow the bane of society's existence and why we are having all of these issues, but we're not actually looking at the source, the actual fucking foundation of why we are in these structures and systems to begin with, then we are doing the work of the oppressor for it. And again, calling that revolutionary. And then we got folks on here saying that they didn't know that Jill was even freaky like that. Again, it's not even a freaky song, y'all. Damn, it's poetry. Like, right? Touch me all over, squeeze my meat. Like, we can switch up the landscape, Afro beats. That's not the line. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, it's a play on words. But when the society has also been taught not to engage with the word, not to understand how to read the word, and if you read the word, how to comprehend the motherfucking word and understand what the word is saying, and then ask yourself, do you agree with the word? Right? When we get words that are put together in different kind of templates and poetics and soundscapes that also don't replicate the same goddamn sound that you're supposed to like, right, and be all about, then again, we see just how good the state has gone and done at its southern strategy of making the population sick and ignorant, therefore ripe and docile for replication of the same systems over and over again. We got a world built, but first you got to break that goddamn structure within. So get to the bones of things, y'all. How is that freaky? Right? What does a freak mean? And if you don't even know the person's catalog and you want to get online, literally, I saw somebody say that after 30 seconds of watching it, they got online and made a 3-minute video about the damn song and about her being so freaky and stuff. And I'm like, and everyone in the comments is like, do you not, one, no, but two, do you not know her catalog before you want to get on and be so authoritative in your opinion? What I don't understand about folks right now, especially the younger generation, and I don't mean this with disrespect, I mean it as an actual reflective question. Y'all are so afraid to be cringe, but you're not afraid to be ignorant. I think being ignorant in the public is a bit more cringe than actually trying to figure out yourself and being yourself and calling that cringe. Whose definitions and sites and words are you using? Whose stories are you using to tell? Your own story. Right? Saturn is saying, whose spell are you under? Right? I don't get it. People are not afraid to be ignorant online, but you afraid to be cringe. Please, y'all. Right? And I am too, Grace. I actually had this conversation with my roomie. He had to get into me a little bit in a loving way, being like, no, sometimes you just got to tell folks they stupid because this is ridiculous. Right? The stories we were told. Something else that I have really been sitting with, y'all, is the ways that, like, the releasing of the disciplining of higher ed and social justice via these institutions of what justice really is. Again, we're going through collective death, a collective death first of Venus. Venus rules relationships, justice, and money. Okay? Beauty and the like as well, and culture, death and rebirth. Shit needs to get weird. Shit needs to get ugly. Everything is not some kind of aesthetic that you can replicate. What the hell do you even like, and who are you? Because the one thing I really got irritated by was this idea of, like, how the canceling idea or accountability and all of this stuff, but no, how are you going to be accountable when you don't tell yourself the truth? when you're afraid to be able to speak, right? Your wants and needs. Do you even know your wants and needs? So Saturn is bringing all that to the surface and really saying, do these stories make sense even about that shit? Right? Or are we allowing ignorant motherfuckers to lead us because they can perform how we've been trained and groomed into seeing authority in particular bodies? Right? Do we believe the reality, and can we stop thinking we're going to have another savior outside of us when the savior is you? Because you got the structure, y'all, your bones, this body. What does the body want to do? What does the body need? How does it want to speak? Speak out truths to yourself in the mirror and ask yourself lovingly, can you receive it? So that you can get to the bones of things to remake the goddamn stories, y'all. Because we're going to have issues with money. Okay, this is, again, just the beginning. They're going to bring us war. They're going to try to bring out war, whether it be external to us or internal to us. Minnesota is going to be a ground zero. They're going to come back to Chicago. There have already been reports that they're trying to bring a couple of hundred ICE agents into the city, plain clothes. Now, who knows if that's actually true or not, right? But this is important, though. Do we learn from the past, or do we try to replicate it? But because everyone don't know how to read and comprehend, you're actually replicating a cliff note of a cliff note of a cliff note. So you think you quoting somebody that's half-ass quoted, thinking that's the actual action, while you've not learned a goddamn thing. So you let the goddamn monster at the fucking door come in because they know how to say the right language to get you to believe that they are your quote unquote comrade, when in actuality they are the op. That because your ignorant ass did not take the time and space to sit down and ask yourself some deeper questions. You just wanted to perform what you think is the right thing to do, to be the contrarian, right? You then become the reason why the state is now infiltrated into local communities. So we're having to face a lot of shit right now. And I mean that with love. We got to face ourselves and face the bullshit we have fed ourselves. Take the performance off. Pluto's in Aquarius opposing Leo. Everything that hits Leo, and baby, this is just the beginning. Wait till the nodes change and we get things moving through Leo. It is a death and rebirth of the construct of the performance of the self. Because Leo at its heart is the child, it's childhood. It's the father, but it's your heart. It is what you desire and love. It's how we play. It's how we create. But do we know how to create? No, because they stole our childhood, y'all. So in order for us as a collective, right, to recreate these structures and systems, Pluto is going to have to kill off the version of you that bought into that structure to begin with. Don't fight it. You're not doing something wrong. You're figuring out how to live. And I mean that, y'all. If you're going to perform, if you're going to put on a script, if you're going to put on a sign, remember the signs are the costumes, y'all, that the planets put on. Let me say that again. The signs, the zodiac signs, are the costumes that the planets put on in order to navigate this terrain. So if you have to perform, if you got to put a script on in order to go in and take some shit, because you understand the purpose and function, right, of what these structures and systems are. And if we're going to actually create new worlds, we need resources. And if they're hogging the resources, how do you go back and take what they stole from us? Right? Well, you're going to have to release that attachment to the script of you that told you that you're above that. Right? Or that somehow there has to be a moral purity or whatever the hell it is, right? Whatever mechanism that gets you to stay in your head and be docile and justify it because it's not the quote unquote right or best or obvious thing to do, that allows the structure to maintain itself, that's what Pluto is going to oppose and actually ask, really, girl? Really, boy? Really, person? Really? Really? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to do? Really? Because if you do that, then the structure maintains itself, then you're allowing authoritarianism to come in. Because Aquarius is also technology and humanitarianism. Humanitarianism and technology. The first technology is the body. The first technology is the human. But we're being told, fuck the human. You can, again, seek authority outside yourself. So right now we're going to have war in the state because of Capricorn. But as we get into Aquarius season, I'm going to talk about this more starting next week because we're going to hit Aquarius season later this week, actually. Yes, later this week, we're going to hit Aquarius season. when we're going to have that massive stellium Aquarius, right, then we're also going to be hit with technology, right? And what this means and the kind of stories we're going to be constantly told that somehow this is the inevitability of our future, when that is nothing more than, again, a story that we've been told. As Saturn emerges from the deep waters, hits 28 degrees, then 29 degrees, Neptune will already be in Aries. It is going to ask us to be critical, right? Critical of these stories, critical of the gods that we give our authority up to. Because again, a god ain't just that baddie in the sky, ain't just Yahweh's old war god ass who got mama issues, right? That god for many of y'all is those theories and those theorists. Shit, y'all put a white man on a pedestal, no matter if he dead or alive, whether it be the white Jesus or Marx, right? Or it's that pastor in that church, right? It's something outside of you. We're going to have to ask and rewrite, be critical of the ways that we have given our authority up to others, because Saturn as the mother is then going to go into Aries, which is you, the head, the body, the full body. Who's going to own your structure? So this new moon, y'all, this new moon is a new beginning. It might have felt like it was dragging on this kind of quote unquote new year. But this, if you're going to talk through the Gregorian calendar, you can really mark this really as the beginning of a new year. But next month with the new moon in Aquarius, that's also going to be the lunar new year, and also a eclipse as well, right? That is truly the start of this kind of story that's being played out, that if we're going to have the worlds we say we want, we're going to have to start to build them now. So this is the structure, Capricorn structure, that Aquarius collectively we need to start to do. Okay. And what we're seeing here is just how good the state has been, because going back to Jill, right? Going back to Jilly from Philly, right? I'm going to keep on her ass for a minute. Because again, the ways that people are responding to it, younger generation, regardless, I've seen honestly of expression or ethnicity or race and stuff, it really just shows again how good the state has been at getting the younger folks to believe that this is all there is. So the nihilism is what also allows folks to be docile. Period, point blank. If you say, well, fuck it, this is all there is, I give up, well, then you become the best vessel to reproduce this stuff. If you really don't know your history, right, but you believe that history only starts when you were born, so therefore you know as much as you believe you're supposed to know, so then you go into a space, again, I'm going to use pride as the example, and you want to fucking kink shame, basically queer shame, folks who are expressing themselves in their way and using children as the scapegoat of why that this is seen as deviant, even though your young queer ass can only be out here saying this ignorant shit because of the fact that these folks put their goddamn bodies on the line, right? That most of these older folks have lost folks because the state didn't give a fuck about queer folks, especially during the AIDS crisis. You have black and brown folks and poor folks in the goddamn inner cities getting hit by crack. You had queer folks dying in goddamn hospitals from AIDS because nurses wouldn't take care of their asses. So it was lesbians going in, taking care of mostly gay men who were literally being left to die. That is the foundation of being able to take your ass now at this day and age and sit here and be able to come out at 10 or 12 or 14 or 20 or come out younger, right? And be able to live in that queerness and do the things, right? Do the things that those who are considered hetero get to quote unquote do. But we got to question that though. Is that really what we need for our folks to do, our youth to do? Because replicating the heteronormative ways of living, right, leads to goddamn ignorance. For all of us. It don't work for the straights or the gays. Don't none of this shit work. So can we question the stories we've been told about what it means to live? How we do these structures and things called life, the relationships we have. We're being questioned. Look at our relationships. This is something that kills me about folks like actually Jill Scott and Erykah Badu. I saw Erykah in concert here as well when she was in Chicago. Both of them, and it's the age, it's the hetero-ness, it's the age, it's all of this, these bird ass concepts about being submissive, right? So Jill talking about how she'll be submissive to a man if she can do X, Y, and Z and close her eyes while she's in a car. And then Erykah at the concert was asked the question to the audience. Even the men were a little like, huh? She was like, man, do you want us to be submissive? Well, if we'll be submissive if you can't submit. I don't know. It's that hotep shit, y'all. You know how you be playing on the words and shit. And like, I lost it. I was like, girl, I don't know where you're going with this. But there's an interesting way, right? Y'all know what I mean if you follow both these women, right? Lovely music, but goddamn the bird shit. Because this whole submissive thing, this dominant submissive thing, again, we see the ways that we get trained to think that we're doing some kind of spiritual, worldly, we're in our divine feminine thing, when in actuality, that don't make no goddamn sense. Ain't nothing more than another patriarchal understanding of a relationship. Why does someone gotta dominate? Why? Why does someone got to dominate? Why does someone got to submit? What does that do? And I'm not kink shaming, y'all. I understand in the kink. Listen, I'm going to tell a little bit of my business. Last year, I had two lovers, brief time, both about 2 months, and both were in kink, right? Both were into kink. The first one was supposed to be more of a plaything. It really was more of a plaything because they ass was not clear. And then the other person played in my face. And so I tried and I was like, I don't like this shit. So I ended that shit, both of them at 2 months. Now, why am I bringing this up? There is this idea of submissive and dominance there, right? That the first person that I was with, like they were a pup. And I did not understand that. And it actually irritated the shit out of me. It did. I was like, so I was very clear. I was like, I don't think I can do that. Like my whole work is about being human again. I'm not going to dehumanize you. Like that's just not what I'm saying I can't do it. If you need that, then I'm not the person for that. Right. So they were like, no, it's fine. But it wasn't, because there was still this underlying dominant submissive thing. And now the more I talk with folks who are in kink, I understand the concept. And the sub is really the one who has the kind of quote unquote power, because they're the ones that are kind of leading, and the dom is, the person that is kind of quote unquote leading the play or the scene or the relationship. But the sub is the one that allows, that can kind of controls the temperature, right? Because hence you got to communicate and all of that. I get that theoretically. I really do. In practice, I have not seen that shit actually work, especially when you take it out of that scene and try to put it into an everyday reality of relationship building. Then you get these delusional things talking about how I want to close my eyes and be able to trust that the person is driving ain't going to kill us. Bitch, I want anybody I'm in the car with to be able to do that too. I might get tired. If you driving, I don't care if I'm fucking you or not. If I gotta go to sleep, I'm hoping that your ass can get you and me there, because I'm assuming that you also want to be alive too. Do you see what I'm saying, y'all? Am I making sense? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to shit on her. I'm trying to say, can we question these kind of underlying understandings of what a relationship is? Right? Why do we need dominants and submissives? Definitions of care, exactly. So what do we need for care? And I think that's what we're all trying to get at, right? I think all of these attempts of figuring out it's care. But we've been told that care comes through a romantic relationship that isolates us, right? Puts us into these families, these nuclear families that you have to kind of perform and maintain in a certain way. Structure of a home, bones of things. But shit, we're even realizing now the homes don't make no damn sense. These bones are damn cardboard. So if the wind gets too hard, the goddamn house falls over, right? They're building them with cheap ass labor, and I mean, not labor, cheap ass supplies, excuse me, right? And then selling it or way above market. And then you get in, you got mold in the damn walls, right? Even the structures of the homes and the bones that we're supposed to buy into as somehow the maintenance and the pinnacle of success can't even live up to the goddamn hype. Do you see what I'm saying, y'all? This shit don't make no sense. So we're getting to the story of things that has cast a spell over us, that glamour that no longer is glamorous. Because the U.S. is talk about hellholes, baby. Right? Our train system shit. Public transportation in many cities is decrepit. Infrastructure has not been maintained. Right? Our technology actually is pretty behind. Our education system has been lacking for decades, especially when we move from critical thinking into these goddamn testing things. Right? Oh, but we're supposed to be the best in the world? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Whose definitions are we using for best and innovative? How innovative is it to do the same goddamn thing over and over again? Again, 20 years ago, we were told that it was going to be individualized medicine and people can prick their finger at home and get a whole bunch of tests that they can run for themselves about very complicated kind of medical kind of issues. When at the same time, we were also being told the motherfuckers couldn't read. Like, come on, y'all. Do you see what I'm saying? The structures and bones of things. Because they're going to use Minneapolis. They are using Minneapolis as a test case, right? And now people are talking about the governor, Waltz and then the mayor, Dems, and then the Dems, basically saying, record things, we really can't do much, and folks are dunking on Dems again. Dems have always ain't been shit, y'all. Dems are the party of law and order. Dems are the party of law and order. Of course, they're going to tell you to abide by the goddamn law. That's what they always do. That's not the kind of dunk you think it is. If we believed that shit 4 years ago when they were coming after fucking black folks, maybe we would understand that they were going to do the same shit now. Because they unleashed the damn guards on when BLM was protesting 4 years ago. 5 years ago now. We're in 2026 now. Shit. Do you see what I'm saying, y'all? Do we believe the reality we are in and the structures of things that have always been cracking? The stories are coming up to the surface. The U.S. as a nation state is built upon a lie of democracy and freedom, right? That somehow we are free and democratic, but that freedom and democracy depends upon somebody else's subjugation. That's the reality. That's not new. That might be new to some folks, but that is the reality, but that's the structure. We are part of the imperial core. So what does it mean to understand that, own that, and then move that shit somewhere else? Well, we got to think about the ways we have a relationship with one another. We have to think about the foundations of our homes, right? The roots, the family. 28 degrees is a Cancerian degree. We're coming back constantly to this understanding that Jupiter in Cancer is retrograding. So we are asking, he keeps retrograding. He's been retrograde this whole time. This is a reflection time. What do we need for care? And why do we have to see care through this lens of dominance and submission? Does that make any sense, especially right now? Right? I don't want to dominate anybody. And I'm not sure shit ain't submitting. Ain't no goddamn way I'm submitting. I want to be in a relationship. I want to collaborate. I want to cohabitate. I want to figure out what it means for us to lay shit on the table and come to decision makings, but realizing someone's going to make a goddamn decision. Right? To me, that makes more sense because this shit has not worked. Trying to replicate the master's house in different fonts gets us back to the master's house, just a new leader in different fonts. That's the same old shit. That is actually the so-called Antichrist that the Christians been calling down since God knows when, right? They've called down their hell. We are in hell, y'all. This is the Christian hell. It's called the nation state, right? An economic system that is very young. Capitalism is young. Racial capitalism is young. Stop giving up all of our understandings of exchange and trade and money to a young juvenile who told you it was the only one. Again, the stories we are told, who's telling them? And how far back are we actually going? Time is nebulous. We have been here a very long time. There has been all kinds of different ways societies have been constructed through space and time. We can't even comprehend time. Oh, who rules time? Saturn, baby. The mother has arrived back again. The mother is here saying, come on, y'all. We have to, the timelines we are in are ones that we dictate. But you got to know the time you are in, the reality you are within. And if you don't like this reality, we can remake another one individually and collectively, but you got to get to the bones of shit. And you do that through creating, through creation. So this is why I also say we need the elders right now, because Saturn rules eldership. Saturn rules maturation. It is time for all of us to grow up. And I talked about this on some of my socials, is that especially if you're over the age of 40, I really do mean this. It is time to realize your space and place as an elder. And eldership is not just growing old. It is taking your experiences and turning them into wisdom. You are not even an adult until you are 40 in many cultures. You are not an adult many times in many cultures until you hit 40, because you need that time and experience to figure it out. So again, the older you get, the more flexible you should get. not the more rigid. Doesn't make any sense. When you are young, you actually get rigid because you need structure. You need someone to tell you the lines, right? How many of y'all either have kids or work with kids? Kids really do like it, right? When you give them some kind of, they may play outside the lines, but they need to kind of know something, right? Because it gives them some kind of safety as well, right? A bubble, we call it. And then you open up that bubble more and more. That's what, if you actually allow kids to be kids and not seeing them as property, right, or little used, then they can grow into and figure this out. But the younger you are, you do get more rigid. This is why, think about why we have so many young revolutionaries that have died, have been killed, that have those strict ideologies, that believe they know what they know. And then we replicate that, we stagnate them, we make them calcified. We don't even allow the dead to mature themselves. We keep them young. Stop it. Let them dead grow. Let the dead grow up. Let the dead figure out and then learn themselves so they can actually help us here. The dead are here. Pluto and Aquarius, the underworld, collectively bringing it in. We have called the dead down. Now let them mature, but also pay some respect to them. So it's time to grow up. It's the eldership so that we become good ancestors. You can't be an ancestor, a good one, until you can, or a useful one, I should say, until you've been a goddamn good elder. So you understand that process, y'all. So maturation. Maturation is here. Okay? So then what does it mean to grow up into this? So if you're older, tell your story. This is what I mean. Over the age of 40, now you can take those experiences, turn them into wisdom, and really figure out what is the story you're creating? What is the script you are now going to lead? That is world building, and that's what allows us then to figure out different familial structures, different relationship structures, different structures of exchange, different ways of getting local and realizing that there are still local resources that you can actually take over. This is how you start to get different ideas of multi-generational living. There's stories coming out of folks, women. I just saw another one of two women over the age of 40 who were both divorced with kids, decided to buy a house together because and they're platonic. They're both hetero, but they're like, no, this is family. And they're happy because they have care and they have support. As Grace said, definitions of care. What is your definition of care? Get to the bones of things so you know what you need. Ask your body, baby. Because that's what's going to help you figure out the collectives. Aquarius, the new beginning of Aquarius being, what are the collectives of care that we need? Who do you want to be a family with? And no, it's not always going to be sunshine and roses, y'all. It's not going to be. That's the point. So can we handle conflict? Can we mature in how we engage with conflict? Do you see the story being unfolded that's being laid out to us, a template that we can work with if we take responsibility for it? And taking responsibility is not a bad thing, right? It's what a good mother does, a nurturer does. Tells you that you're going to have to figure out how to do this on your own and make your own decisions because you don't want somebody else to own your head. That is love. That is love, y'all. Do we know what love is really? And it's not for me some dominant submissive bullshit. Hell. Love is, can I come home and tell you how, be vulnerable, like actually open up. And if we do get into an argument a couple of years later or days later, you're not going to throw it in my face. Because I love you and you love me enough to know that certain things you just don't go to. Do you see what I'm saying? That's love. Does the person I'm with, whether it be romantic, platonic, or whatever it is, know that if they come to me and they lay their burdens down and they tell me something that they do not like that I did, that I can hold it and not push it back, that we can work it through? That is love. So, last thing I'm going to say then, empathy and care is exhausting. There's these fucking conversations online. Also, the conversations online are ridiculous, y'all. This is, again, the queering conversations for me is one of the actions, because we got to move these conversations and concepts. We're stuck in these fucking loops that are getting us to somehow buy into and agree to takes that make no sense because you're trying to argue points that are nonsensical. Stop arguing an idiot, y'all. Suffocate it and go somewhere else and move the conversation. There is, Shay. There is a maturity in understanding and receiving this kind of love without demonizing it. Exactly. right? Because this shit is hard, y'all. We're building in destruction. So we have to destroy to build. We don't know how to build. We don't know how to create collective. We know how to destroy. We know how to consume. The state needs us to be afraid of taking care of ourselves. Make sense, y'all? So again, question all this shit. Question all of this shit and allow yourself to then build a new storyline. All right. Now, I have a number of new readings out, and one of them actually is called "Working with Saturn." If you can go online, I just put them up. So, if you are a part of the Patreon at the free level or higher, I will have a special code that you can use for 20% off any reading, and that's just going to be standard. So, if you are part of my Patreon, you can use this code from now going forward to have 20% off readings that you have with me. If you are somebody who's like, that sounds great, Doc, but I really don't want to be a part of the Patreon, I got you. You can use the code 2026 for 10% off any reading this year. Okay. So if you use the code 2026 because you don't want to be a part of the Patreon, I totally get it. Then you can use 2026 to get 10% off. So some of the readings I have now are working with Saturn. So what I'm going to do is to work with Saturn, work with folks as Saturn, but through the lens of it being the crone, not the patriarch. So what can it do and what can it say? And this is especially helpful if you are Saturn ruled or if you're in a kind of Saturn transit. So a Saturn square, a Saturn return, or a Saturn opposition. The Saturn return really ain't the biggest boogeyman y'all out there. It really ain't. It really ain't. Quite frankly, I personally believe it's that Neptune and Pluto square. That's a bitch. That's a bitch because that's at the same time around 40. Okay. I also have navigating astrological middle age because that is a bitch. So if you are between the ages of 35 and 45-ish, 35-ish, 45-ish, or you don't have to be there if you're older or younger than that, but you want to kind of look at that age range as you are navigating it or post reflecting upon or pre-planning that time of life, then I have a navigating astrological middle age reading now as well. The third one I have is what the hell do I have, y'all? You don't know. I'm supposed to know this. The other one is what do I see? So sometimes folks want to know what I see in the chart. It fascinates me why y'all want that, but I figured, well, fuck it. Let me just make a reading for this. So if you want to know what I see, I have that as well. For returning clients only, the transit reading is always going to be there, so you can book a transit. And there is one more. I just can't. Oh, thank you, Grace. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Grace said I'm good at seeing. So if you trust my site, then I can look at your shit. And then there's one more reading, but honest to God, y'all, it's leaving my mind. So you can go on my website again, drnicolerouse.com, and my books are open again for the last one. I got a 2026 New Year reading. So if you want to look at what the new year is going to bring, there's 7 major transits that are going to be happening this year. All the planets change signs except for Pluto. So everything changes. But Pluto led the way of this change. So if you want to engage, look at your 2026. I also have a 2026 New Year's reading. Now, speaking of that, next Wednesday, the 28th, I will be doing a lecture on the astrology of 2026, focusing on the elements of fire and air. I'll be doing that through Big Liz Conjure. So if you are part of the soundscape level and higher, you will have access to that live reading because I'll be doing it live and there'll be a recording. If you're at the soundscape level and the landscape level and higher, you'll have access to the recording. Okay. Otherwise, you can go ahead and sign up to listen in on the live, or you can purchase a recording of my lecture. Okay, but that'll be next week through Big Liz Conjure. I will have in the show notes ways to sign up for that. Okay, and again, if you're going to be in Chicago, I'll be there at Dorothy Downstairs on Tuesday. We're going to be queer and music and technology. All right, and I think that's it, y'all. Finally, also, I am a strategist. Hey, my great grandmama always telling me that if a closed mouth don't get fed. So I am a strategist, y'all. I'm an organizational cultural strategist, and I am right now looking for new clients, new contracts. So if you are a part of an organization, or you yourself have your own business or a startup, and you are looking to help you navigate these chaotic times strategically, so doing strategic planning in times of chaos, That has always been my specialty, and now I guess it's my time to come alive. So you can book a consultation with me if you are interested in inquiring more about either my consulting services and or my speaking and facilitation services and hosting services as well. So you can go online. I do have consultations, free consultations. And again, those are for folks who are looking to work one-on-one with me and have a budget. I've had to say that. It's not, I gotta pay my bills too, y'all, right? And so, so if you are interested in any of that, please go ahead to my website, or reach out to me directly, and we can converse about that, okay? All right, y'all, next week we're gonna talk about, we got Pluto and we got Mars and Pluto meeting, we got Neptune moving to Aries, and Saturn is moving closer into that critical degree of Pisces. And also, I'll tell y'all some more about this. I am taking improv. And I fucking like it. So I'll talk more about that next week as well. I'm actually going to be out of town, so I'll most likely come live Saturday. I will let you know in the Patreon the time, but again, most likely I will be live this Saturday versus Sunday because I will be out of town leading a actual board retreat that Sunday day. All right. So go ahead and sign up on the Patreon at the free level to just be up to date about that. All right, y'all. Thanks so much. This is a little bit longer, but we got to get to some bones of things. It is a new moon, so plant the seeds, y'all. Plant the seeds. Capricorn is about the harvest. So you plant the seeds so you harvest that shit. Get your hands into the soil. What do your hands want to do? What do your bones tell you need to be restructured so that you can then understand the mothering and care that you need? Because the great mother is saying that this is actually the foundations of the worlds that we need to build. It starts with the care of the structures, and the structure is your body. All right. So keep dreaming, keep exploring, because we can bring these things we want to say in the future into the present. Till next time, y'all. I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. Like Michelle sang, the cosmos, where we come from, the light that lit the way for our ancestors in the dark of night, when they had to leave the spaces that tried to steal their breath and life, reworking while also learning how to work with the land that was also being worked, a land and people under duress. The trees did not ask if they wanted to participate in such brutal practices. Yet here they were. Here we are. All beholden to a power structure that only knows how to take and never to give, while telling us this is the right way to live. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. As Michelle sang, the cosmos. The cosmos. We'll learn to imagine that freedom lied in parable of the sower that sowed the seeds of earth's seed that wanted to bring humans back to the stars, to start again, to start anew. Remember where we come from and who we are. The stars that lit the way, that guide the light. The moon that holds the tides of the waters. Our connection to earth and land. As above, so below. Yet we don't know, because we have lost the above and the below. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. And journey to the cosmos.